Mr. Speaker, just for clarification purposes, as some skeptics may want to say, that why is a bill of such magnitude, of such importance, going through all the stages at one sitting, Mr. Speaker? That exactly is not the case, Mr. Speaker. The bill had to go through all this. We had to ask the House for the bill to go through all these stages because the bill was actually laid in a previous sitting, but its time has lapsed, Mr. Speaker, in the last parliamentary session. And since it's coming from an old parliamentary session to a new parliamentary session, we had to ask the permission, had to ask the House permission for it to go through all the stages. For out of the abundance of clarity, and to make it clear, the credit reporting bill is not being rushed through the House in all its stages at this sitting. It is not. It was here from the last session, and in fact it has been in discussion from the year 2020, but it came into this honorable House for during the last session, and because the time lapsed, we had to bring it again. But it has been in discussion for a long time. In fact, a special select committee of the House of Assembly was appointed, Mr. Speaker, in 2020, and it reported on September the 9th, 2022, to deal with the credit reporting bill, Mr. Speaker. So it's not a new bill that has come into this House for all this sitting at this session, Mr. Speaker. I just thought it was important that I made this clear, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, the ECCB, which is the monetary authority that deals with monetary matters of the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, Mr. Speaker, in collaboration with the International Finance Corporation, the IFC. And Mr. Speaker, you will know that the IFC is a body from the World Bank that had a very strange relationship with the last government when they prepared the PPP for the last government as it related to the Unero International Airport. And the last government, the former Prime Minister, in his wisdom, sought that his idea, his combination of the Forester Management Consultancy and himself was the best combination for Unero Airport. And he thought that these experts, the experts from Forester, had a lot more had more expertise, the FMC had a lot more expertise in the management of airports, hospitals, etc., Mr. Speaker. So they changed their mind and they literally chased the IFC out of St. Lucia, and it caused us to have to pay $1 million US for our actions, Mr. Speaker. But the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank fought different, and they worked with the IFC in the establishment of a credit bureau for the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, Mr. Speaker. The Eastern Caribbean, the ECCB, Mr. Speaker, facilitated the drafting of the ECCU credit reporting bill and regulations to establish a regulatory and supervisory framework to support an advanced credit reporting system in the ECCU member countries. The ECCU member countries, Mr. Speaker, are Anguilla, Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, Grenada, Montserrat, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia and St. Vincent, Mr. Speaker. And incidentally, all the islands in the ECCU have passed the credit reporting bill except St. Lucia. The purpose of the bill, Mr. Speaker, is to provide for a fair and accurate credit reporting system within the financial system in order to assure objective credit decisions. B, to enable credit information sharing and reporting. C, to provide for the regulation of the conduct of credit reporting and credit reporting services. D, to provide safeguards for data protection for customers of credit providers. And E, to provide for a single space in the regulation of credit reporting. Mr. Speaker, the benefits of implementing the credit reporting system is expected to result in improved credit risk management, increased access to credit, and responsible lending and financial stability. Mr. Speaker, the talk of a credit bureau has been around from the year 2016, Mr. Speaker. From the year 2016, the Attorney General had been asked to comment on the bill coming from the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, the ECCB. Mr. Speaker, as I said before, that bill has a long history. In 2020, by Cabinet Conclusion 1137 of 2020, the bill was approved for transmission to Parliament and was subsequently tabled for first reading in the House of Assembly on 29 September 2020. On its second reading in the House of Assembly on 24th November 2020, however, because of the bill's far-reaching implications, the bill was referred to a special select committee for consideration. The interim report of the special select committee was laid in Parliament on the 15th December 2020 and highlighted some of the concerns from the Department of Finance, the Attorney General's Chambers, the St. Lucia Bankers Association, and other stakeholders. A decision was made at the 15th December 2020 sitting of Parliament to recommit the bill for consideration by a special select committee. In 2022, after meeting the ECCB and other stakeholders, the Attorney General submitted to the ECCB further comments, including the observations in the interim report for consideration and transmission to other member countries. In 2023, the Attorney General's Chambers sought an update from the ECCB on the status of the comments. By letter, the Governor of the ECCB indicated that the ECCU Credit Bureau, established under the bill, will be launched soon in the 6 other ECCU member states, and therefore urged St. Lucia to pass the bill in its current form, as the enactment of a uniform bill throughout the ECCU member countries will pave the way for the establishment of the ECCU Credit Bureau. The exact text of the bill is therefore adopted in each ECCU member country. As I said before, Mr. Speaker, the bill lapsed as it had not been passed in the parliamentary session in which it was first laid, and as a result must be relayed in this current session. The bill makes provision for preliminary matters such as definitions that are used in the bill. For example, credit, credit bureau, credit information, data subject, and personal information are words defined in the bill. To ensure the administration of the bill, Mr. Speaker, the Central Bank is responsible for granting licenses to and imposing sanctions for contravention of the bill on credit bureaus and other credit information providers. Additionally, the bill sets out the licensing requirements for a credit bureau. The bill also captures matters relating to credit reporting. For instance, the activities that a credit bureau is allowed to engage in the requirement for the consent of data subjects before credit information is shared with a third party, the types of data that can be submitted or disclosed, the uses of credit information data, and retention periods for credit information to be kept. The supervisory powers of the Central Bank to conduct inspections and make orders to amend or restrict the use of incomplete or non-compliant credit information is also provided under the bill. Additionally, a credit bureau is required to provide audited financial statements and other compliance documents to the Central Bank. In cases of negligent non-compliance with the bill provides for the civil liability of a credit bureau or credit information provider to a data subject. A credit reporting review commission is appointed under this bill. The objectives of the commission and the procedures for an aggrieved data subject to submit an application to that commission are provided for under the bill. Additionally, the constitution, operations, and procedures of the commission are set out on the Schedule 2 of the bill. A person aggrieved by a decision or order of the Central Bank or the commission may, within 20 days of the date of the decision or order, make an appeal to the High Court or Court of Appeal. Miscellaneous matters including the creation of offences and penalties, immunity provisions, and powers of the Minister of Finance to make regulations and amend the schedules to the bill are also provided. I'll read that again, Mr. Speaker. Miscellaneous matters, including the creation of offenses and penalties, immunity provisions, and the powers of the Minister of Finance to make regulations and amend the schedules of the bill are also provided in the bill. So, Mr. Speaker, as I said before, it's important for St. Lucia to fulfill its obligations to the ECCU, Mr. Speaker. We cannot keep the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union back without ensuring that bill is passed, Mr. Speaker, because the entire structure for the Credit Bureau has been created, and St. Lucia needs to get in line with the other countries, because a Credit Bureau, Mr. Speaker, is essential so that we can have evidence-based decision making as far as credit is concerned. Too many times people get credit because of who they know, or do not get credit because of who they do not know. So the Credit Bureau will ensure that there is a framework under which you can be analyzed and so you can get a credit score. And I'm sure on television you've seen many times people talking about the credit score. So this credit reporting bill give us a credit score. So when there can be an objective manner of getting credit from financial institutions, Mr. Speaker. The purpose of the bill, Mr. Speaker, is to provide for a fair and accurate credit reporting system within the financial system in order to assure objective credit decisions, to enable credit information sharing and reporting, to provide for regulation of the conduct of credit reporting and credit reporting services, to provide safeguards for data protection for customers of credit providers, and to provide for a single space in the regulation of credit and reporting, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the various parts of the bill, Part 1 of the bill, Clause 1 provides for the short title and commencement, Mr. Speaker. Part 2 provides for administrative matters. Parts 3 and 4 relates to the licensing of credit bureaus, their addresses being the application for a license. It lays out how that's done, Mr. Speaker. Part 4 of the bill deals with activities relating to credit reporting, and it says that the Credit Bureau may only engage in activities permitted under the bill or regulations. So the Credit Bureau must work according to the specified bills, the specified regulations, Mr. Speaker. It also says the consent of a data subject must be obtained before related credit information is shared with a third party. And that is clear in Clause 18, Mr. Speaker. It says that you must inform the person, Clause 18 of the bill, it reads credit reports, Clause 18, Mr. Speaker. I want to read it because I think it is important, Mr. Speaker. Clause 18. A person requirement for content, page 18.1. A person may not inquire on the credit information respecting any data subject without first obtaining the consent of the data subject. That's important, Mr. Speaker. So if the Credit Bureau wants information from you, they must seek your consent before. So there can't be there ought not to be no underhand, no MacGyver type operation. You have to get the information of the data subject, Mr. Speaker, before you get the information. And 18.2, a credit information provider may disclose to the Credit Bureau both negative and positive credit information without first obtaining the content from a data subject if the credit information provider provides notice to the data subject that credit and personal information may be disclosed to a credit bureau. I want to read that again. A credit information provider may disclose to a credit bureau both negative and positive credit information without first obtaining consent from a data subject if the credit information provider provides notice to the data subject that credit and personal information may be disclosed to a credit bureau, Mr. Speaker. So, Section 1, a person may not inquire on the credit information respecting any data subject without first obtaining the consent of the subject. And when the subject gives consent, Mr. Speaker, then the person providing the information to the credit bureau may give both either positive or negative information on the data subject, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a credit bureau has a duty to maintain records and credit information under clause 24 of the bill, and the credit bureau is permitted to outsource the processing of credit information subject to the approval of the central bank. That's on clause 24, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, part 5 of the bill contains provisions on the central bank's supervisory powers. The central bank is empowered to gather information, carry out inspections, and enter and search premises. The central bank may by order amend or restrict the use of incomplete or non-compliant credit information. The costs of an inspection or inquiry are borne by the person on whose behalf it was conducted. A credit bureau is required to submit the audited financial statements and other compliance documents to the central bank. Also, the central bank is empowered to apply to the High Court for an order against a person who contravenes the bill or regulations. And it goes the other way around, Mr. Speaker. It goes the other way around in that a person aggrieved by a decision or order of the central bank or the commission may within 28 days of the date of the decision or order make an appeal to the High Court or Court of Appeal. Mr. Speaker, I know there have been some concerns about the power of the central bank as far as that is concerned, and I guess these can be discussed and looked at some later stage, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, part 4 of the bill, this clause provides for the civil liability of a person who causes injury to a data subject by reason of that person's non-compliance with the bill of regulations. That's important, Mr. Speaker. That's very important. You are civil liability of a person. So if you cause any injury, you cause the provider has a civil liability, Mr. Speaker, subject by reason of the person's non-compliance with the bill of regulations. If you don't follow the rules, Mr. Speaker, you are civilly liable. Part 7 of the bill provides for matters relating to the review of a decision of a credit bureau or the central bank, and the appeals processes is addressed in Part 8 of the bill, Mr. Speaker. Part 9 of the bill relates to provides for miscellaneous matters, like clause 47 of the bill empowers the central bank to enter into agreements with other entities with respect to enforcement of the bill or activities related to credit reporting, Mr. Speaker. Clause 48 of the bill, the central bank is required to keep confidential any information it obtains as a result of an inspection. Clause 49 provides for the admissibility of a certificate of the central bank in evidence in respect to the prosecution of an offense under the bill, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, it's a rather comprehensive bill that has been thoroughly debated, that has been spoken about. There are some clauses that have caused some level of concern, Mr. Speaker. But as I said earlier, that bill has been passed in the entire region, and St. Lucia should not keep the region back. But it also has some advantages, Mr. Speaker, in that it gives, as I said before, a scientific way of credit ratings. There's a scientific way where your credit can be rated, Mr. Speaker. So it means that a young person can begin the financial discipline. And talking about financial discipline, Mr. Speaker, we as a people have to learn some financial discipline, Mr. Speaker. We found ourselves in a situation where, because of the availability of credit cards and payday loans, we many people are living beyond their means, Mr. Speaker. We must get into the discipline of financial planning. We must get into the discipline of saving, Mr. Speaker. And there is a trend in St. Lucia by some people, Mr. Speaker, that using credit cards to pay credit cards. As soon as you get yourself in that situation, you are nearly at a point of no return. To use, and I'm sure Memphis as a banker knows that, once you get to a situation where you have to use credit cards to pay credit cards, you are in trouble, Mr. Speaker. So this system of credit rating will instill a level of discipline in people, particularly people starting off, young people starting off, Mr. Speaker. But again, you can't instill discipline in people if you do not give them the tools. And again, I want to make a plea to the banks for this problem in opening accounts in this country. This opening accounts where you have to have 5 pieces of ID to open an account in St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker. If not 5, too many pieces of ID. There is no reason why a young person cannot open an account with their regular ID card. There's no reason why a school leaver can't open an account with their regular ID card. There's absolutely no reason, Mr. Speaker. So the idea that our islands are sources of money laundering and etc. is something that we must try our best to dispel, Mr. Speaker. And again, we are in the next motion bill will be the registration of supervised entities, where again we are forced to pass legislation for things that we probably do not do. But that is the financial architecture that we live in, and if we have to protect the reputation of our country, the reputation of our jurisdiction, we have to pass it, Mr. Speaker. So I urge members to look at the relevance and the necessity of the credit reporting Act, for the credit reporting bill, Mr. Speaker, and to give their consent. I thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is another bill that has been imposed upon us by the international financial architecture. Mr. Speaker, it is called the Registration of Supervised Entities Bill, and it actually is an extension to the money laundering prevention, Mr. Speaker. And what it seeks to do is it seeks to increase the number of entities that have to be supervised, Mr. Speaker, and have to follow the dictates of the Money Laundering Prevention Act, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, the purpose of the bill is the registration of supervised entities is to provide for the registration of specified persons engaged in certain classes of business activity which present a risk for money laundering and other criminal conduct. Mr. Speaker, in its 2021 mutual evaluation reports, the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force identified in their mind what were certain deficiencies with respect to the supervisory duties and capabilities of the Financial Intelligence Authority in relation to designated non-financial business and professions called DNFBPs. DNFBPs are those businesses and professions which though not financial institutions, have obligations in combating money laundering and other criminal conduct, and are considered attractive channels of money laundering, terrorist financial proliferation, financing, and financial crimes. These designated non-financial business and professions typically provide or trade in high-value assets. For example, car dealers, real estate agents, and jewelers. And Mr. Speaker, some of these business entities that have been added to the list of supervised entities are registered agents and trustees, registered under the Registered Agent and Trustee Licensing Act, motor dealers licenses under the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act, A gaming operator licensed under the Gaming Racing Betting Act while engaging in transactions equally or not exceeding $8,000. A person involved in transactions for a client concerning the buying and selling of real estate. A dealer in precious metals or stones when engaged in any transactions equal to or not exceeding $25,000. A person that engages in internet gaming and wagering services. Attorneys at law when they carry out transactions for clients in relation to the following activities: buying and selling real estate, creating, operating or managing companies, managing bank savings or securities accounts, managing clients' money, securities or other assets, or raising contributions for the creation, operation or management of companies. Accountants when they carry out transactions for clients in relation to the following activities: buying and selling real estate, creating, operating or managing companies, managing bank savings or securities accounts, managing clients' money, securities or other assets, or raising contributions for the creation, operation of management companies. Mr. Speaker, again, that is more control and more regulation, Mr. Speaker, that has been imposed upon us by the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, Mr. Speaker. And that came in relation to St. Lucia in its 2021 Mutual Evaluation Report. They found that there is no mechanism for which the Financial Intelligence Authority can identify all entities operating in sectors such as real estate, car dealership and jewelries to ensure that these sectors are supervised. So, Mr. Speaker, this, as I said, this bill is purely to follow the dictates of the FIA, Mr. Speaker. So what it says that these institutions, as I mentioned, have to be supervised, Mr. Speaker. They have to be supervised, and the registration of supervised entities bill, it says the purpose of the bill is to require a person who carries on a certain class of business activity to register. So the businesses I call there now have to register with the FIA to provide for greater supervision monitoring of business activities that present a risk for money laundering and other criminal conduct. So these organizations must register, Mr. Speaker. Clause 1 of the bill provides for the short title of the bill, as I said. Clause 2 of the bill, interpretation, sets out the key definitions for words used throughout the bill, such as authority, beneficial owner, criminal conduct, other business activity, supervised entity, and ultimately own and control, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, it defines these entities that I have called, Mr. Speaker. And the beneficial owner example has the main assigned under the section 2 of the money laundering Prevention Act, Mr. Speaker. So under section 2 of the Money Laundering Prevention Act, Mr. Speaker, a beneficial owner is identified, and that is, Mr. Speaker, a beneficial owner, Mr. Speaker, is a natural person who ultimately owns or controls a company or legal arrangement, who exercises ultimate effective control over a legal person or legal arrangement, such as senior manager or signatory, on whose behalf a transactional activity is being conducted, Mr. Speaker. These people are called, that is a beneficial owner, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it defines that these people have to be supervised, Mr. Speaker. And it also speaks on the section 4, Mr. Speaker, clause 4. It speaks of the requirement for registration, requires a person to engage in other business activity to be registered, and applies to a person engaged in other business activity before the commencement of the act, Mr. Speaker. Clause 5 of the bill, how your application for registration, Clause 6 of the bill, grant or refusal of application for registration, provides for the grant or refusal of an application for registration. Clause 7 of the bill, registration fee, provides for the registration of a person engaged in other business activities and for the issue of a certificate of registration. So after these entities that I mentioned have registered, they have to apply and they have to pay a fee, etc. And the clause 8, renewal of registration. Clause 9, suspension of registration. Clause 10, revocation of registration. Clause 11, deregistration and refusal to deregister. Clause 12, register of supervised entities. Clause 13, notice of change of director. Clause 14, notice of change of beneficial owner. Clause 15, notice of material change of information. And by virtue of clause 16 of the bill, false and misleading information, where a person gives false or misleading information to the authority, that person commits an offense and is liable to summary conviction of a fine not exceeding $25,000 or imprisonment for a term not exceeding 1 year or both. Clause 17 of the bill, appeals, shows that supervised of the bill appeals allows the supervised entity to appeal a decision of the authority to suspend the registration of the supervised entity to the High Court. And clause 18 of the bill empowers the Attorney General to make consultation after consultation with the authority. Mr. Speaker, again, another set of legislation imposed upon us. As they say in Patois, nous c'est wa vet devant poule. These inspections are made, Mr. Speaker, and then a whole barrage of laws and regulations are imposed upon us, Mr. Speaker. And if you don't, you are blacklisted. And if you are blacklisted, you cannot operate in the international financial architecture, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, this is significant because there is, among all these controls, is something called de-risking. And that is what we have to protect ourselves against. De-risking, Mr. Speaker. Because when that thing called de-risking, and again, this is the reason why we had to do what we did this morning for the reputation of the country, Mr. Speaker. When when de-risking happens, Mr. Speaker, you cannot transact any transaction in the international financial market. That means you can't use your credit card, you can't transfer money for SWIFT. This is such a serious thing, Mr. Speaker, de-risking, that you almost, and as the Mayor for Castro himself says, well, they've tried to take the power for the Minister of Finance. The Minister of Finance cannot sleep when he thinks of the risking, because if that ever takes place, the only person that will pay the penalty, the person that and the member social is laughing, Mr. Speaker. When that happens, the person who pays the penalty is the Minister of Finance and the government. That's the person who pays the price. So all the technocrats, they give the rules, they lay down the rules, they lay down what you must do, they tell you the laws you must pass, Mr. Speaker, and if you do not pass them, and you get the risk, they are protected, although they will suffer, but you are the ones, the Minister of Finance and the government and the politically exposed persons, Mr. Speaker. That we are the ones inside there. We are the ones again to suffer. Mr. Speaker, look at what a politically exposed person is. And in relation to St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker. And these people fall under the Money Laundering and Prevention Act, Mr. Speaker. So they are supervised entities. A domestically politically exposed person, listen to it, in relation to St. Lucia means an individual who is entrusted with a prominent public function in St. Lucia, such as the head of state, the head of government, a senior politician, a senior government official, a judicial official, a military official, a senior executive of a state-owned corporation, an important political party official. So that means That means the chairman. What about that? Means the owner of the leader of the Green Party. Yeah. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, that is very serious, Mr. Speaker. These are political. Mr. Speaker, the sad thing is that we, the politically exposed person, that's once you are in that position, you have no protection, Mr. Speaker. No protection for you. You can be maligned as if you almost have committed an offense when you get into politics. You can be maligned, you can be attacked, you can be crucified, all kinds of things that you say about yourself, your family, your children, and everybody else, but you have absolutely no recourse, Mr. Speaker. And that's the sad thing. So even there, you are considered a supervised entity, right? You are a supervised entity, Mr. Speaker. So sometimes, Mr. Speaker, it really is a situation where you wonder. But you have no privileges, only rights and duties, Mr. Speaker. But that's how it is. And when we choose, as I always say to my colleagues, nobody's sent to call you. So when you choose that, you must take it as it comes, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, it is anticipated that this bill will bring St. Lucia one step further to being in full compliance with the international obligations and reduce the risk of our jurisdiction being blacklisted or placed on a blacklist. Mr. Speaker, I am sure next year by this time there will be another set of regulations that we have to impose that will cause us not to be blacklisted. The goalpost shifts all the time. So next year, they'll come with another set of regulation, Mr. Speaker. Every time. Mr. Speaker, I say that, and I think it's the right time to say it. Every time we in these small islands try to do something to give us some level of economic independence, some barriers are put in the way, Mr. Speaker. We were in bananas. They said that our quality was not good, so we have to deal on rules based, and there was free trade, so we could not do our bananas, Mr. Speaker. We went into the financial services, IBCs, trusts, all sorts of financial insurance companies, etc. They said that was a cause for money laundering, so they blacklisted us, and all these laws came in, Mr. Speaker. Now we are into the Citizens by Investment program, another set of rules and regulations and accusations of being areas of money laundering, etc. in our programs, Mr. Speaker. Anytime we try for some level of economic independence, there seems to be barriers in the way, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, St. Lucia will prevail in that we'll ensure that our good name is always protected. And I'm very happy to tell you, Mr. Speaker, that in all these situations, we always try to comply with the rules, even though we are sure that these rules are unfair and the goalpost is changing all the time, and they are applied unequally, Mr. Speaker. The small islands seem to be the ones who have to carry the brunt of the punishment, Mr. Speaker. But that's how it is, Mr. Speaker, and we try our best we are complying in the view of having our island not blacklisted and being able to operate in the international financial system. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, the question is that the registration of supervised entities bill be read a second time. Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think that we have understood and I guess that all members agree with the bill, Mr. Speaker. and the limitations that is placed on us, and what we have to do to remain in the financial architecture. And I move that, Mr. Speaker, that we continue the process, get the bill passed.